All right, guys. Jiu-Jitsu belts. Are they real? Are they fake? Do they matter? Do they not? Who knows? Let's talk about it. My name is Bill Jones. I'm the head instructor of top-level martial arts in beautiful downtown Cuyahoga Falls. You're watching Professor's Corner. I'm a black belt under Master Pedro Sauer and Tony Rinaldi. With me today, one of my friends and students and colleagues is Mr. Logan Higley. That's right? Because it looks like Hughley, but it's actually Higley.
Yep.
He's a high-ranking brown belt, very close to black belt. He's like smelling the black belt coming at some point, whenever it happens. And I mean, man, how apropos, right, for like a conversation about whether ranks matter.
Yeah, for sure.
So I thought, let's get Logan on here. He just taught a class, and let's just talk about it, man.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll preface it. I want to get your thoughts, and we'll just kind of banter back and forth here. But I've seen, I don't know why it's become so popular recently, is like this conversation about like, are belts BS in combat sports in general, and also, you know, therefore in jiu-jitsu specifically. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to look at this, I think, but let's start it off. What are your immediate thoughts?
My immediate thought is it matters in the beginning, and it gets to a point where it doesn't matter anymore. So like when you're first starting, I know like me when I was a white belt, that was before I started here, and then as a blue belt, like I came to you as a brand new blue belt, and I didn't really feel like one, and then you gave me a stripe, and I was like, okay, I'm an actual fucking blue belt now. I know, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, it just came out. And I was like, I'm a legit blue belt now, and then for me, it stopped mattering when I was a purple belt, because, I mean, you've said before, I'm sure you said in other podcasts, where you get a purple belt, you can get a black belt, and I was like, okay, this is something I'm not going to stop doing, and that's when, like, just like my rank didn't really matter.
Yeah, and that's saying, it's actually something I read in, I believe it was Mastering Jiu-Jitsu with Renzo Gracie. It was either that one, or there's an older book with Renzo and Royler Gracie from like 1990 whatever, by Turtle Publishing, I think, and they made that statement. So it was one of those two books where he talked about like, look, if you have what it takes to make it to purple belt, which is usually 5-6 years of training, then you've probably figured out enough in your life to like continue through that. Now that might be changing, I don't know, because like now you've got like kids who are like starting at the age of 8, they're earning black belts at like 22, 23 years old. They haven't actually gone through life and experienced job changes, family, loss, things like that. Yeah. So maybe they don't stick with it after that. But I don't know, but that's generally kind of like the rule of thumb, is if you have what it takes to make it to purple belt, you have what it takes to make it to black. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. So I think most people, for anybody who doesn't know the history of martial arts in general, or belts in general, the belt ranking system was created by Jigoro Kano, the founder of Judo, which has extremely close ties with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You could argue that at least at one point in history, they were the same art.
Yeah.
And if you want to read more about that, I've been talking about it a lot, but Open the Closed Guard by Robert Drysdale is a fantastic book. A lot of people like claim it to be anti-Gracie. It really is not. He's just trying to like say, hey, here's what history says actually happened. He's not saying like it's good, it's bad, it's anything. He's just saying, here's what happened, right? But anyway, that's a different tangent. But he created this because he realized like people were coming in, and Jigoro Kano was also a school teacher. He was trying to get it for physical education, and realized that people needed some sort of measurement of progress. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it was like you were either a white belt, a beginner, or you were a black belt, and that was more than the non-existent belts that they had before that.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
It was like you're a beginner or you're a teacher.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it was. It was a teaching certification essentially, and then from there, there's different stories about how the rest of the rankings came to be. Some say they developed in France. It doesn't matter. The point is, the other ones got thrown in there, and then eventually Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu kind of started the same way, right? Like they heard that there was this ranking system, and they were like, okay, well, we have light blue belts and dark blue belts, right? That's kind of how that started. And if you haven't read about like Hoyce wears like a dark navy blue belt, yeah, because that's what his dad wore, and that was like the teaching rank. So that's kind of how they started, and it was like just to have this random measurement of progress, so that as an instructor, it like helps in two ways, right? Like as an instructor, I can look at someone wearing a white belt and say, well, that person's a beginner. I don't care if you're a white belt who's just started or a white belt who's been doing it for 4 years. You probably only know so much. Now, that's discounting. That's not including like your D1 wrestler who walks in, which happens quite a bit. You know, we've had many wrestlers come in.
Very fun.
And
Very fun
certainly, I like. While they don't know the moves of jiu-jitsu specifically, they know takedowns, they know control, they know how to pin someone. They have a lot of wonderful skills, and usually progress through the ranks a little quicker, at least at the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless they can't get like out of their head the idea of flowing. Like I think that's where jiu-jitsu and wrestling differ a lot in some respects.
I find it to be like finesse. Like they're not so used to it. It's very just like they go very hard, and then getting them to understand guard can be a challenge because they don't like being on their back at all. They're very hesitant to do that.
You see that with a lot of catch wrestlers too, and you know, like the argument is, well, you don't need to because if you're on top, and I get it. Like if you have the skill to stay on top forever, that's great.
Yeah, we have rules around here somewhere.
Yeah,
Stay on top.
Chris Outer, like rule number 1 of jiu-jitsu, be the person on top, right? Yeah. Like I'm there with you, but I feel like if we translate it to what it's meant for, which is defending yourself in a fight, I want to assume that things have gone completely wrong. I want to train from that perspective. And like maybe I'm just sitting on a bar stool talking to you, and some dude just comes up behind, you don't see him coming, bam, knocks me off. I'm laying on my back, he's standing over me, starting to throw down punches. Now I got to react.
That's a really good point. What helped me with like having rank structure, just like coming up through the belts, is I had specific things I knew I wanted to work on. So like blue belt, I came in and I heard, like I'm a big guy, I'm 6'2", 265. Big guys are like turtles, you knock them on their back and they're done. Like you're just going to be on top of them forever, you're going to strangle them. I'm like, I do not want to be like that. So I worked guard from literally the beginning of blue belt until I was like a 2-stripe purple belt, and I was just like, oh well, now my takedowns suck and I'm big and that's not good either, so I need to work takedowns now.
And so, of course, you went to the most common takedown, the wrist lock.
Yeah, the wrist lock. Just grab the wrist and twist it. Give them the old wrist twist. Love it.
So it's good for beginners. It's nice to have. But I think that there's also like, and I'll say that all the way through, right? Like I think if you have to remember who's doing jiu-jitsu, and for some of you out there, you're probably at a small gym where everybody there is athletic and in great shape and working hard, and that's how smaller gyms tend to be. I'm very fortunate in that this is all I do as a profession, right? I have a big gym, I have good marketing, I have all that kind of stuff from a business perspective, so I get a lot of great people who are just trying to better their lives, you know, 38, 39, 40, 55-year-old guys who, you know, heard about this from Jocko, who heard about it from Joe Rogan, who, you know, watched something and someone said, hey, jiu-jitsu can change your life. And it's like, does that person deserve to also earn rank? Even though, let's be honest, if you earn your black belt at 70 years old, it's not going to be the same black belt as a kid who earns it at 22.
Yeah, that's
like you're going to get your ass kicked by that kid 10 times out of 10, and that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. So should that guy have the opportunity to earn rank?
Yeah.
I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, me too.
I also, just for some background, I come from traditional martial arts background, right? So like it's not uncommon in my mind to see people who aren't as good as other people, right? Like, and I've been doing this since I was 4, so I've competed at high levels, I've competed at low levels, you know, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, relatively low levels, in karate and in Kung Fu, very high levels. And like, people have different skill sets, man. Like,
I think Joe Rogan and like Jocko have even talked about that too, where it's like, I'm not in competition with other people, I'm in competition with myself, and I just 1% better every day is my goal.
Yeah, that's the great, like, what do they say? Like, comparison is the thief of joy. Mm-hmm. So I mean, like, friends of mine out there, catch wrestlers especially, they're like, I don't understand this whole belt system. You don't have to. Let's be real clear. Like, it is not necessary. So if you were to come to me and say, is it 100% necessary to run a good school, to have a belt system? I would say no, not necessarily. But you're going to recruit a different type of person probably.
Yeah, there's whole schools that are just no-gi, like 10th Planet. I mean, they give you belts, but like they're no-gi, so like what's the point?
Yeah. And it's like, do the belts matter? Because I think the worry is like, well, let's say, hypothetically, and it's not that unrealistic, I've seen it happen, like, let's say I go to a Grappling Industries at the Arnold's. Okay, the Arnold's is becoming a much bigger tournament again. It used to be huge when I was young, and then it like became trash, and now it's back to being a great big tournament again. Gordon Ryan's going to be there. A few years ago, he was there. He actually jumped in the advanced no-gi division just to kind of show off the moves he was going to teach.
Yeah.
And like one of my students got to compete against him. Like so,
Austin?
there's
Awesome.
Austin got to compete against him, and like
I think that was his first match too. Which is like,
and like bless Gordon, he was so nice.
He
to
was
the
so
kid.
gentle.
Yeah, he beat him in the most gentle way and showed like just he was nice, and like very nice guy.
He's a tough purple belt, but Gordon makes him look like he's never done jiu-jitsu a day in his life.
And
like it's crazy.
Or like there's that video of Andre Galvon, and it's like 15 years old now, beating a judo black belt.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I feel bad because it's always like fake black belt, and that guy did not say he was a jiu-jitsu black belt.
Yeah.
Everybody knew he was a judo black belt. They said you're a judo black belt, so you have to go in the black belt division. He gets Andre Galvon. Andre Galvon surfs
champion.
on him for 3 minutes, pushes him over, and then taps it.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's be clear, Andre would do that to me right now, and I am as legitimate a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt as they come. Right? Like he would do that to me, guaranteed. You know, it's just how good he is. And he's slightly younger than me, not by much though. He's 41, I think.
Yeah, probably used to the gills.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't think it would matter.
Yeah,
I think you could take all his juice away and he still beats my ass.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, me too.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it matters. That could be a conversation for another day. So, like, does that make my black belt invalid though? I say no. I mean, and maybe I'm biased because I don't want you to think I'm not a black belt, but like, I just feel like there are people who are at certain skill levels that other people are unlikely to get to. I don't want to say can't, but unlikely.
It depends on like who you are as a person and like what your goals are. Like if you're trying to be like a competition, like world champion black belt, like that's different than just like I want to be able to defend myself. I would say that some people need that like ranking structure, especially in the beginning, just to like have a goal to get to. But like also it's dangerous for them to focus on like I want to get that black belt because it's like, I mean, if that's just your goal, are you going to like work 10 years, get a black belt, and then just quit? Like that would be silly.
Yeah,
like, take it one step at a time.
And that's a thing where like I believe that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu especially does very differently than karate or anything else. Is even if your average dude gets a black belt, and let's say compared to world-class competitors, he can't beat a purple belt, right? And that's probably not unrealistic. You know, so you get some of those purple belts up there. They're really. I mean, look at Kolabate. That guy was a blue belt winning, like going into ADCC.
Yeah.
You know, and it was partly because he was young, his age, he couldn't get promoted until a certain time.
Yeah.
But like that aside, like does that guy who's been training for 10, 15 years deserve some sort of recognition for the knowledge he has at the very least? Because like just because you can't execute it at the same level as a Kolabate or as a Junio Casio or any of these guys, like doesn't mean that you don't know the moves. It doesn't mean you don't understand the technique.
Yeah, for sure. I think the knowledge portion is a big deciding factor in it because like, I mean like our body types are different. Like you might have joined as like an overweight like 50-year-old, right? So like that's going to be hard. And then I had something and it just completely.
That's all right.
Left.
If it pops back in,
it'll
just
pop back in. It's okay.
But I guess in the end, I think like, do the belts mean something? I think they mean something to the person who earned them, and I think they mean something to the instructor who gave it to them. Right? Like I can look at you as an almost black belt, and I can say, you know what? If I get sick and Logan, like for today, just so I had to go have a medical procedure, and I said, Logan, can you run class? Absolutely. Like, there's not even a question in my mind that I could be like, Logan, here's what we're kind of working on. He's going to be able to teach it just as well as anybody else. Same thing with a lot of people. Any of my black belts, I would believe that they're going to teach it to the standard that is required. And the other thing that I always put is like, if you look at some of the best coaches in history of any sport, a lot of them, I don't want to say they never did the sport. That would be a little inaccurate, but like a lot of them didn't compete at a very high level.
I think Danaher's like that because he was like a power lifter or something.
Yeah, Danaher.
He hurt his hips.
Yeah, he has bad hips. He was never a high level competitor. But he understands jiu-jitsu at a very high level.
Yeah,
Bill Belichick was never an amazing football player. You can just Google it. There's a ton of coaches that are out there like that, right? So like. It's there's that mean saying, I think it's kind of mean, is like those who can't do teach, right? And it's like, well, there's a difference between teaching and coaching as well, but you know, that's not really the exact way it goes. It's those who understand at a certain level are capable of teaching it, you know, and have those skills that are required. And some people have that, because I'm sure on the flip side, we've met a lot of really high level black belts who suck at teaching, like suck at it. And yeah, they'll be like, you just put hand here, keep tension. Like, what do you mean keep tension? Like, I
be more constructive.
Look, I love the guy, and I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to badmouth anybody. But I remember having a guy here, and I know how good he is. He's literally one of the best. And like, it was just like, keep tension, do this. Like, he hasn't had enough training and teaching to understand how to communicate what he's actually doing. Yeah. And some of that is just important. It comes into like some of these guys haven't, you know, there's 4 levels of understanding, right? There's unconscious incompetence, which is when, like, that's the guy who sees red but thinks he can fight. It's like, what experience do you have that makes you think you can fight? Oh, bro, I just see red. Nah, you can't fight, bro.
Body's dropped.
You know, and then you have conscious incompetence, where, like, you know you suck. Yeah. And then you have unconscious competence, which is where, like, I can make this work, don't ask me how I did it, right? And I think there's a lot of high-level people that are at that level. They might understand it to some degree. They're like, well, I wait for this trigger or whatever, but, like, and I've even seen situations, like videos, where they're teaching the move, and then you go watch them compete and do the move, and they don't do it that way. And it's like, no, you do it like this. What are you talking about? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, they think they're doing one thing and they're not. And then there's conscious competence, which is when you understand every piece of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, your goal is to have that conscious competence. But, you know, like, as far as the belts, white, blue, do you need all those? Like, they're just markers along the way, right? That's really all they are. And it lets somebody else who comes in the door, who's, you know, just started, say, oh, that person's a purple belt. They can probably help me with this basic armbar that I'm working on, right? Yeah. Even though that purple belt might be 65 years old, right? And you, as a D1 wrestler who just started, might even be able to force yourself on them and beat them. Yeah. But they can at least show you the armbar. They can show you some basic moves. They can give you some ideas on strategy and how to move. Like, understanding that, it's like, it's kind of like a respect for your elders thing. More, I don't want to say more than anything, but that's part of it too, which is a very Asian concept these days.
I definitely look more for, like, the knowledge aspect, and that's kind of going back to, like, the thought I lost came back to me. But where, I mean, we've had this, I talked to you about this not too long ago, where I'm at a point where a white belt and a blue belt basically feel exactly the same thing, like, threat-wise. But, like, I know that blue belt has better things to do, so I have to consciously look at, like, what they're doing. And, like, if I try to do a scissor sweep, you give me a more intelligent response versus, like, a white belt if I were to be looking to, like, strike that blue belt up or something like that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's exactly right. Yeah. You're going to get to the point where, like, you know, like, the saying is, like, when you learn a new move, try it on like, if you're like a purple belt, it's like, try it on white belts first, then try it on, you know, small white belts, then big white belts, then small blue belts, then big blue belts, then small purple belts, then guys your level. Like, you're going to get to the point where you can skip half of that and you can just start doing it on, like, brown belts. You're like, I'm going to try it on Robbie. You know what I mean? Like, because I feel like I've got the understanding.
Yeah, for sure.
And you almost, like, work backwards. You're like, well, it didn't work on Robbie. Let's go back a step. Yeah, small white. Let me try it on Merritt because he's a smaller brown belt.
Yeah, I'll do that all the time. I'll see a move, like I'll see it once, and if I like it, then I'll watch it a bunch of times, and then I'm like, okay, I have it, and then I'll just try it rolling immediately with whoever wants the smoke. It doesn't matter, like, who it is. Like, I'm going to try it on them, even if it's a brand new move. But going back to, like, when I was a brown or a brand new purple belt, I remember the difference between, like, a white belt and a blue belt was, like, blue belt's, like, actually kind of tough, and I have to, like, be a little bit more cautious. And, like, he's probably not going to beat me, but, like, if I let him get too far, then, like, I'm going to be in trouble.
Yeah. I should have brought our certificates out here, because the verbiage on them talks a lot about, like, what I expect and what I understand of each of these ranks to be. And each one starts with my certificates are just a little different. They're not just like, you are hereby awarded blue belt, right? Like, they actually say something on them about what a blue belt is, and and it has a saying from someone that meant something to me. And on the blue belt certificate, one of my instructors, Brian Mlinarsik, looked at me one time and he goes, yeah, blue belt's just kind of a legitimately tough human being. Yeah. Like, that was his standard. It's like, you're just tough. Yeah. You know, you're tough, you know some moves.
You're not a wuss.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
That's kind of what he meant. You know, like, it wasn't like you're this god that's going to tap out every white belt that you see, and it wasn't, you know.
I don't have to necessarily go easy on you is basically what it is.
So, and like the Gracies did a cool thing with what they call Boyd belts, and it's like for every 10 years of age, and like, I don't know, whatever, but 10 years of age and 20 pounds or something that's like knocks you back one belt. So like you're a 266.2 guy that's how old?
30? I am 32.
32, and I'm 44. So like that kind of puts us at the same belt level. You know what I mean? Because like I've got so much age on you and a little bit of weight and like from their perspective. Now it doesn't mean, I mean, maybe we're not because we both can move pretty good still, but like I'm lucky, you know, I'm not that injured, you know,
but slightly.
Yeah, just my left side.
Yeah.
The rest is,
who needs a left side?
I have a right side.
Yeah, that's fine. It works good.
So, but yeah, I mean, there's that too. But in general, do I think they're necessary? Let's wrap this bad boy up. We've been talking for like 20 minutes. So, from my perspective, the belts help the instructor just at a quick glance know who's who, know who probably knows what, and look, after 10 years, I know who Logan is. But you know, we have a big school, right? I'm about to promote 16 people, all of them to purple and brown belts. Like, that's a lot of people going to those belts, and I need to be able to look and say, okay, there's Amy. She's going to know the basic Aleo Gracie self-defense enough to help Joe Blow with it when we teach it in this class, right? Or she's going to be, she runs a women's self-defense class. I am comfortable that she knows everything she needs to know to do that.
Absolutely.
And knows it thoroughly, not just can kata the moves.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
You know, and it's also, I think, good for the person. The person, it's nice, like, when you're training to see that progression, because there's going to come a time, like, and the argument is like, well, the progression you'll know because it comes out on the mat. Cool story, bro. You're not 50 years old yet. That's all I can say to that. When you're 50 years old, it's not going to come out on the mat. It's just not. And it may have come out on the mat when you were 20 and 30 and 40, and now you've got a couple injuries underneath you, and you've got, you know, some age, and that 23-year-old comes in, and, you know, he's been training for 6-7 years, and for some reason you just feel a little slower against him. His timing is just different. Yep. It's not his timing. You're just older, man. Yeah. So like those belts are just nice to see, and it's nice to have at a quick glance. But at the same time, it doesn't mean anything. Like, I don't, like, people look at me and go, oh, yes, sir. And I'm like, do not do that.
Yeah.
I am not sir. I am Bill.
Yeah.
Right? I am Bill on the mat. I am Bill everywhere I go. Right? There's an honorific, and you know where that goes? Nowhere. Like, it's on my wall. That's all it is.
I had that conversation with my grandma where she, like, asked me how my sensei was doing, and I was like, I don't have one of those. She's like, well, what do you call him? I was like, I call him Bill. His name is Bill.
He's the dude who teaches some classes.
Yeah, he's just, like, the guy.
Yeah, so, like, there's some of that, and I mean, people can call it culty or whatever, but like, the American side doesn't need all that. I don't think. We shake hands, we bump fists, we hug it out. Yeah, I don't need someone calling me sensei or anything. You know, professor's corner is largely just a play on the idea that the professors are the instructors of jiu-jitsu, right? Yeah. That's kind of all it is. Yeah. So, anything else to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, my closing thoughts are just like, for me personally, when I was a white and blue belt, it mattered a lot. I got to purple belt, and then it mattered a lot less. Me as a 4-stripe brown belt does not matter to me at all. You could keep me as a 4-stripe brown belt for the rest of my life, and I wouldn't give a single shit.
Done.
That's it. It's just like, on me, it's cool. I'm working no-gi a lot lately, so it's like, it extra doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even wear my belt all that much unless I'm teaching. So
no-gi's fun.
I love no-gi.
Yeah.
I've been working a lot of no-gi takedowns. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Do me a favor. If you have comments on this, put them below. Share this video out if you would. Like, if you're willing to. Put it on Facebook or something. You know, that way everybody else can yell at me and tell me what a dumbass I am. Love to see your comments, though. Let me know what you think. Logan, thanks for coming.
Yeah, no problem.
Talk to you guys later.